Yeah, just
So there's a lot of dogs out there when they hear the word like walk or they hear like the word park or something, they go crazy. When Jess hears the guitar and the boots, he goes nuts because he knows it's time to talk mules and donkeys. And he is a working dog, isn't he, Steve?
yes, he is. We got plenty of pictures of him moving those cows around and sheep and even kids.
Moving them all around. Hey, folks, my name's Dave. This is Steve Edwards. Every week we get together on Tuesdays to talk mules and donkeys. Today is no exception. We're going to spend the next 16 minutes, and I'm going to be your tour guide into the things of everything hee-haw. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and along the way, Steve's going to show us some exhibits, give us the backstory, and then as we leave, hopefully you'll have a little bit of knowledge you can take with you as you get back out into the round pen or the arena, or you just get into the stall and do some ground foundation training. That's what we do each and every week. But before we get started, Steve, how has the last week been for you?
Well, it's been busy. I put Susan on an airplane this morning. Uh, her alarm was set for 3 o'clock. Mine was set for 2:30, and I woke up at 2 o'clock. I hate waking up with alarms, so I always program my mind to do different. So I put her on an airplane. I am now going to be a bachelor for 10 days. Yep, I went hunting moose for 10 days. She goes and hunts grandkids 10 days.
Hopefully different outcomes. So
I don't know.
I know, right? Oh my goodness. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We are on a time change. Now, out here in Arizona, this is the wild, wild west. So when everybody else was all daylight savings, Arizona was like, nope, we're going to do our own thing. So for a lot of our friends across the United States, it is an hour earlier this week than it normally is. This will be the normal time going forward because it's 3 o'clock Arizona time, and that's the same time every single week for us. So I apologize if you're just now watching it and you thought that you were on time, and in fact you were, if we were still daylight savings time. So just FYI, now until I think it's like March or April, whenever the clocks change again, this is going to be the time that we meet. There's three things. This is your first time hanging out. There's three things that we're going to ask. Number one, very simple. We ask that you share your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like today. We just want to know that you're here, and we want to know what life is like in your shoes, or at least in your neck of the woods right now. So your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like. We sure would appreciate that. And even if you're watching on the replay, as so many of you do, it's so great to hear from you. Go ahead and share there as well, and we'll come back and say hello to you. The second thing that we ask is that you help us with today's program. Every week's program, as a matter of fact, we need any and every mule or donkey question that you have. Why? Well, because this program is all about you. If it was just us showing up to talk about whatever, it wouldn't be a whole lot of excitement. But because we are here to answer whatever questions we can, provide any insights that we can, and tell you any stories that may help you where you're at, we need to hear from you. So any and every mule or donkey question that you have, go ahead and put it in the comment section. The third thing that we ask is that you share the broadcast, and there's three ways you can do that. Very simple. Click the like, click the share, or just leave a comment and tag a friend. And with that, we're going to go ahead and say hello to some of the friends who are hanging out with us already. John is watching, says howdy. Dave O'Brien says, howdy guys, I'm visiting grandkids in Wichita Falls, Texas, 91 degrees. I'll be back with the mules on Wednesday. Lori says, hi guys, Lori in Aguilar, Colorado, sunny and 76. Super Skeeter says, happy, no time change, Arizona Tuesday. Mark from up the road, Steve, Chino Valley. Good to have you here, Super Skeeter Mark. Sherman Johnson Taxidermy, Norman, Oklahoma, 80 degrees. The Bucks are starting to rut. Now, is that some sort of like the eagle has landed, or like the cat is in the house, or is that actually mean something? The Bucks are starting to rut.
That means that you hunters that know that term know it's time to get out in the field, because the boys are looking for the girls. Yes, sirree. The Bucks, that is a male deer, and rut, that is their breeding time frame. And they do silly things, but they taste good.
And now you know. And kids, knowing is half the battle. Barbara is watching. Bobby in Douglasville, Pennsylvania. Merlin is watching from northwest Minnesota. Light snow today. Got up to about 35 degrees. Almost forgot the time change. Yes, I actually forgot about it until about half an hour ago, and then I realized, oh, the time changed for everybody else. Barbara is watching. I'll tell you what. So I was on Twitter. I worked in a church for several years, and I was on Twitter talking with a lot of other church marketing, church communications people. And I did not realize, even I was in my 20s, and I did not realize that the rest of the world, that they would have to change their clocks every year. And so twice a year, I would be on my Twitter feed, and everyone gives out these alerts. Hey, just a reminder, get to church on time tomorrow. Wind back your clock. Hey, just a reminder, let your congregation know, get to church early. Wind your clocks forward. I was like, what? Why is everybody changing their clocks? Well, eventually I found out what the whole hubbub was, and it just causes for a whole lot of confusion. Dave is watching, and he's got our first question of the day. This is Dave O'Brien, Steve. He says, do you recommend any specific annual vaccination shots?
Yes. Unfortunately, yes. There is the Eastern Western encephalitis is very important with the rhino is and tetanus. So that's really important. And by the way, folks, this is really important. Thinking about tetanus, I didn't know this 50 years ago, but working around equine, guess what is in their manure? Yep, tetanus. Yep, live tetanus virus. And in many cases, really tough. So if you get a serious cut or need to have work done on you medically or something like this, one of the questions is they're going to ask you, have you had a tetanus shot? And yes, it is very important for you all to keep up on that tetanus shot every 10 years since you're around equine. But that's just a sideline there, Dave. But yes, Eastern Western encephalitis, it's a 5-way shot. And with rhino, and that rhino, that usually always does a trick. I don't do rabies shots at all. And there's one other I don't do because I run into some problems with it. It'll come to me shortly. But there you are, Dave O'Brien. Congratulations, Mr. Mule Trainer.
All right, Steve, next thing I've got here on the docket. We posted a video. Do you remember when you and I went to Mesa a couple of years back? And I think it was like 2020, 2021. We went to Mesa, and there was that saddle where someone had stitched the rear of your saddle together. And then there was that really, really nice mule, really tall, big ears, but super skittish mule. Do you remember that?
Yep.
All right. So we posted this video, and a lot of folks had a lot of things to say. They commenting that they did not like the training, commenting that it looked like abuse, commenting that you need to get off his face. And so one of the things that I really appreciate about what we do here is we don't shy away and just disregard, but we explain and we talk about it. So would you share just a little bit about what the history of this mule was, if you can remember, and what we were working on right here? I know that this mule had all sorts of problems, but the owner just had everything that he wanted physically, and so we wanted to work with it. Can you talk to us a little bit about it?
Okay, so it's very important. Notice this mule is standing quietly, alert, attentive toward me. Notice I am barely holding on to the lead rope. Now, if the mule pulls back and decides to drag me around, like here, right there, I want that mule is coming into space, so I wanted to show him that's your space, this is my space. And notice how loose the rope is, how loose the rope is, how loose the rope is. When the mule responded, I gave him back his head. And notice I'm holding with a loose touch. It is extremely important, folks, that you understand that natural horsemanship is built on natural horsemanship. Okay, act, tell, demand, comfortable, uncomfortable. And notice how this mule is no longer trying to get away from me. This was a matter of seconds. Right there, I just screamed and hollered at that mule and bumped. Notice I did that. You can't hear it, but I'm talking about it. I turned and went boo to that mule, and notice he barely went off, and I barely had to bump him. Okay, see boo, and notice a couple of bumps. Up, we're back again. Okay, nothing serious, nothing hard, but quality training the way it should be done. Asking, slight bump, telling, harder bump, demanding, rip his nose off. Okay? Now, it's either that or have the mule take you to the doctor, either that or break loose from, like one happened one time. The mule broke loose from somebody, and that mule ran over top of 2 or 3 cars and hurt a couple people. Yeah, and I've done expert witnessing where people have used nylon halters. That's abuse because it's not a correct halter to put on a mule, and rope halters which were not adjusted correctly, and those were all abused because why? Because the mule was able to get away from the person and caused more harm. Notice this is just barely bumping. I want this mule's feet to be quiet. Now he's coming into space, so I showed him right there, out of my space. What did he normally do? He pushed everybody around. He pushed you right down, okay? But notice he's not doing it to me. Look how much shorter I am. So everything here is natural horsemanship. Natural, okay? Now, comfortable, uncomfortable. Now he's comfortable. Look, I made him uncomfortable because he needed to understand this is my space. Where do I get that? Lead mare. When another animal comes in to an area, the lead mare pins her ears. She asks them, don't come no closer. But they keep coming. Then she tells them. She pins her ears, swishes her tail. Then she demands upon them. Spins, kicks, bites, tears them up. Yes, that's what they do. You think this little bumping thing here is anything? It's nothing. Nothing. Nothing at all compared to the biting and the kicking. And now this mule responds and respects, okay? Unfortunately, the people who don't understand horsemanship or mulemanship are only backyard, that's all they know. I've been around thousands of mules all over the world. I treat them all the same because they are the same. They learn from their nose. Notice the loose lead rope. There ain't no chains on this mule beating him to death. By the way, if you go to a show, if you go to any horse show and you're doing confirmation or horsemanship demonstrations, guess what they put on them? They put a nylon chain on them, a nylon halter with a chain on them. A chain. Yeah. Yeah, and that's really comfortable. Well, there it is, Dave. It's there's nothing better than that come along hitch, you know. And as you can see, within minutes, actually almost seconds, it was done. That mule ain't dragging me everywhere. He's not pushing me around. There you are.
One of the things that I noticed in this video is you've got a specific amount right there. And it's if the mule wants to pull back, you've got your hand on the amount of slack in the rope. And so if he pulls back, he's in control. Whereas what right here, you're basically telling him, don't come up in my space, but I don't want you going away from me either. I want you to follow me at a specific amount. Is that what you were doing right there at the very beginning?
Exactly. See, this mule's coming into my space. That's what he would do with the other owner. He would push the other owner around. The owner would get in there and the mule would come right at him and push him around. And notice, I fix this within minutes, seconds. It's fixed.
Well, okay? What some folks will say is, he was just following you, Steve.
No. If you had seen this before, and I wish we'd have done some other video or even talked to the people, that's the problem, Dave. We probably didn't. You know, we probably had some audio or something like that. But that mule wasn't following me. No, that mule was gonna push me around, and that happens. How many of you out there a lot of you are out there right now. If you probably would write in right now to Dave and I, say how many times you've had a mule push you around, or how many times you've been bit or kicked, and they will do it. But no, he wasn't following me. That mule was getting ready to come into my space.
Yeah, I remember that one in particular. The owner loved him. I mean, the animal's beautiful. Animal's just gorgeous and had real tall stature. And he's like, I want to get this under control because she's a beautiful animal, but just couldn't get any progress. Dangerous animal. And so that was the first time we had stepped in there. So thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Let's see. Hopping back over, Deborah is watching, says, perfect afternoon in Paulin, Arizona, just north of Chino. Thank you for that, Deborah. Certainly not ready for cold weather yet. Deborah. In Arizona, come on now. We have taken the last 5 months with record temperatures here in Arizona, and we're starting, I know it gets cooler up there, but aren't you ready just for a little bit of relief, Deborah? Maybe that's why you're up in Paulden, is because you are smarter than I am, and you're just saying, you know what? I live where it is comfortable almost all the time. Dave says, with the previous vet, I floated teeth every year. My new vet says he's grazing equine with their head down, grind their teeth, tips naturally, so floating is not very necessary. I still have him check annually. Is there any truth to this theory?
No, there's no truth. There's points. These mules grind their food. They don't chew, okay? Incisors bite the grass. The tongue pulls it back, and then they grind their feed back and forth with their molars. And what that does, because of the grinding back and forth, it creates points. Now, I can tell you that now that I've been feeding pellets and before that hay cubes, I actually had less points on my animals. But when you have soft grass, that points grow stronger and quicker, by the way. So no, folks, listen, unfortunately, what so many of these vets learn is what they learn in school, and they don't get a chance to touch many mules. I have done clinics all over the world, and vets have always said to me, every one of them, not without a doubt, have always said, we never learned about mules and donkeys in vet school. They are very different, And by the way, Dave, I talked to Dr. Robert Miller last night, and Debbie, his wife, is 90 years old, and he's 97, and we're going to contact him, and we are going to do a little show with him.
That'd be a lot of fun. We talk about him so much. We've talked about his books. We've talked about your time with him. We've talked about what you've learned from him. So that would be great. We would really appreciate that.
I just had a thought, about Deborah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Deborah, do you know what your name is in Israeli?
Do you know what her name is in Israeli?
Yep, I do.
All right, okay. Good.
Okay, so the word Deborah in Israeli means bee. B-E-E.
Okay. All right, there we go. There you go, kids. Now you know, and knowing is half the battle, as Snake Eye says. That's very cool. That's very cool. All right, we would love to have them on, and that'll be exciting. And I know I speak for everybody watching who says, let's make that happen. Hey, the captain is here. Good afternoon, Chaplain Steve and Chaplain Day. Thank you, Captain Richard Matthews. Good to have you here. Patricia is watching. Patricia in Queen Valley, so just a stone's throw away there. Barbara says, Steve, why do you not do rabies?
I have had a couple different clients. I don't know myself. Had some adverse problems with the rabies, and they were just almost died from it. And when they went back and did blood tests and stuff, there was something about that rabies vaccine that made a mess of them. Now, I'm out here in rabies country. I mean, we have bobcats, coyotes, skunks, a little bit of everything. I've never, ever had any of my animals get bit by a rabid animal, nor have I seen one. Okay, but it only just recently came in on scene. Now I'm sure there's hundreds, maybe even thousands of them that have had no problems at all. But the couple that I knew about, it was really tough on their animals, and all the blood tests and all the work they come up with it was because of that vaccine.
There you go. We got a follow up here. Super Skeeter says, can those 5-way vaccines be purchased from local feed stores in Arizona?
Yes. Matter of fact, I used to get it on, what was the name of that site? You can actually buy it online, and I can't think of the name of the site right now. It's been so long since I've purchased it. And a lot of your feed stores handle it too. But you can is it Farm and Home? No.
There's farmvet.com.
No.
Valley Vet.
Valley Vet.
There you go.
Valley Vet. Yeah.
Awesome.
And it's really easy to do, folks. Look, here's the neck on the mule. Here's your neck on the mule. And it's coming up. When you go to give your shot, okay, let me change it. Here's the neck. When you go to give your shot, you put your hand up like this, open up your thumb, and that's where you give that shot, right in this area right here. So go against the neck, okay, against the neck. And now you got the full neck coming down, and it kind of has the big heavy neck muscle above the esophagus, and then along the crest of the neck. So put your hand right up around the crest of the neck, open up your thumb, and give your shots right in there. Use your needle first. Hold your needle between your pointer finger and your thumb, and just kind of back it up with your middle finger. Hit it with the back of your hand. 1, 2, 3. And the needle's in there. So use the back of your hand, tapping first. Then they don't realize it's there. Boom, boom, boom. And the needle is there. Wait a minute. Make sure it doesn't draw any blood. It doesn't usually in that area. And then put your syringe on. I like to have a stick-on syringe rather than a threaded syringe when I'm doing that type of thing, in case they should shake their neck, But now, I'll go back to this, folks. If you have problems giving shots or worming or anything like that, the natural way. Now, I go back to this natural way a lot. And when we talked to Dr. Robert Miller, he's written a book called Natural Horsemanship Explained. And he told what it was like. In there, he wrote about different trainers. And, a mule trainer. This guy is in there as well. He wrote about me. Great guy. But let's go back. Dr. Miller will tell you that using this twitch is a wonderful way to create natural endorphins, and you can give your shots and this sort of thing really, really easy. And I can tell you that when I just one for instance, I was teaching over at Pierce College in LA, and they had this one mule that just about would kill you if you tried to put a needle in him. And I taught him how to get on the twitch and create the natural endorphins. And I had everybody up in the audience up here. And so then there was 2 or 3 veterinarians there too, and a couple horseshoers that couldn't wait for me to get beat up by this mule, because they just knew that the first time I gave him a needle, he was going to pound me into the ground. They didn't know it because I was on the back side. I was using my twitch, creating the natural endorphins. The mule dropped his head, got big and quiet. He was happy. I put 3 needles in his neck, 3 of them. And then when I turned him around, I showed people, I say, here's 3 needles. They were all amazed that mule stood there quiet like that while I stuck the needles into him. 3 of them, just to prove the point how this natural way of getting them to relax, to accept. I've stitched them. I've castrated. I've done a lot with this twitch. By the way, it's under doctoring your mule. and the twitch is there, a video how-to video is there, and you'll see a mule refusing for us to work on his eye, and you'll see me using the twitch. And then, of course, Dave, we've got other videos as well where I've used that twitch to demonstrate how awesome it is.
Yeah, I've just put that in the comment section if y'all want to take a look at it. The first time I ever saw the Twitch and I saw Steve working on it, I was a little bit uncomfortable because you would not do that to a dog. You would not do that to a cat, or at least I wouldn't think you would. You might do it to a 6-year-old depending on how his behavior has been. But when you see him doing it on a mule, you're just thinking like, good grief, what did this mule ever do to you? But you see, if you're willing to take the time and watch as it plays out, you actually see that the skittishness or the nervousness or the anxiousness that existed in the animal slowly fades away, and you're able to work on them in a way that you would previously not be able to do. And it's documented in the Doctoring Your Mule video where Steve, it's ointment. Steve takes the ointment, puts it on the animal's eye, and complete relaxation. It's really fantastic. And I remember also, it was a clinic out at the ranch a couple years ago, and we had folks from all over the place. And I remember one couple in particular, and watching them watch you, Steve, working with the twitch. And I could tell when you busted it out, they were not sold. But as you applied pressure, as you squeezed in, squeezed off, applied, release, they went from, what is this, to, wow, that's pretty crazy. That's incredible. So yeah, check it out. It's an incredible tool. Let's see here. Next question we got. This one comes in from, where is it here? Comes in from Alex, watching from Austria. So that means we have gone international. My question is on endurance saddles, center fire, English type girths. How does that work, or does it work? My donkey is 5 years old, 13.3 hands. What do you have to say about these endurance saddles, center fire, and English type girths?
Okay, center fire does not work, folks. A saddle will roll and you will get hurt, unfortunately. Center fire, they first started doing that years ago on the military saddles, on the McClellans. Notice those were mostly on mules. I mean, horses. The mule saddle, though, if you can find a McClellan mule saddle, it had a brass horn, but it also had, yep, you guessed it, 2 cinches. So if you, folks, you can't put a saddle on a mule and expect the mule to perform or to be comfortable, which is both extremely important, without using that back cinch. That back cinch has to be. It's imperative that back cinch is there and it is tight. When you center fire, it's on the wrong place on the mule, and it still allows the saddle to go forward and get on top of the scapula. If you'll notice, even on the center fire, because mules are wider in the back and narrower in the front, they're kind of an hourglass shape. And so because of that, what happens is that saddle, because the cinch brings it forward. And then what do people do? They don't think nothing about it because the mule didn't run off. Well, usually when a mule runs off, he is hurt. Something is hurting him, bothering him. So don't get in that position, because that saddle has now gone forward and banged on that scapula. So 2 things it's imperative you use on a mule. Number 1, a back cinch. Not just a little old narrow cinch. I mean a wide back cinch, because that cinch is the most important part of that saddle. Secondly, you must ride with a breeching, especially on donkeys.
Next question also comes from Alex. What do you do when Mr. Mule won't want to move away from the barn, or move only where he feels comfortable? How do you handle this, Steve?
You use spurs, okay? And I've talked with Lexi. Alex is another name for her. Guntra is her other name too, an Austrian name. But anyway, I told her she was using, a regular little English spur, a little blunt end, and it needs a rowel on it to be able to make a little bit of noise, for one thing. That's the purpose of that rowel, folks, is to kind of shake it and make a little noise. But also how to use the spur correctly. All right? Correctly. How do you do that? Ask with your calf. Tail with the side of your stirrup. Demand with the spur. Ask, tail, demand. Go right back to that. Just like me working with that come along rope and that big old mule. Ask, tail, demand. Comfortable, uncomfortable. Pretty soon, that donkey is going to say, hey, you got spurs on, so I feel it with my calf. I don't want to be told with the side of my stirrup, and I don't want to be demanded upon with my spur. So they'll get, just like this mule, they'll get to where you barely have to touch them, barely have to do anything, and they will respond. Okay, now you want the feet to move forward. I want the feet to stand still at first and then move forward when I want them to. Now, here's the next part. Don't hit them with both sides at one time. You're telling both brains to go. Don't do that. Remember, they have a brain on the right and brain on the left. They don't have the cranial lobe telling the right side what the left side's doing. They don't have that. So therefore, when we train them, we're going to go right, left. Now, when I go left, I want my hands pointing toward the right to go on a right lead. When I go left, when I hit them on the right-hand side, they're going to go left on the left lead. So going back, when I want to go right, I hit them with my left leg. They go right. When I hit them with my right leg, they go left. Why is that? Because my left side, when I bump them, has made them uncomfortable. What are they doing? They're going away from the uncomfortable. Yeah. I bump them on the right. What are they doing? They're moving away from the uncomfortable. Comfortable, uncomfortable. That's natural, folks. That's the natural way to do it. And it works well. I've done it for years. Hey, Dave, I had a thought.
Yeah.
That person that was upset with me, can we put anything in there so that they can see why I was doing what I did?
Yeah, I put it. I put a link into the comment section showing folks, pointing folks back to the conversation. We're not going to be able to please everyone. The big thing is I want people to know, one of the problems with social media, one of the problems, not even with social media, just in our immediate gratification, fast nature society, is we'll take a 15-second look at an animal that maybe we worked 90 minutes with, and they'll judge and say, I know everything I need to know about that animal. I know everything I need to know about you. I know everything I need to know about this situation from not even 15 seconds, from 3 seconds. And so my thing is with the equine in particular, there's lots of things are like this, but with the equine in particular, it's like some folks will watch some of the little clips we put out there and they'll make comments and I'm like, that's a great comment. We talk about that. There's no way we could have worked all that into a 30-second clip. So thanks for saying that. Appreciate it. So it's just one of those deals where it's like, hey, a lot of folks, they don't want to have a conversation. But for those who do, we want to have that conversation. Next question comes in from Rachel, says, hello, I have a 14-5 hand donkey I am training. Would the Martingale fit or work with her?
Absolutely. That Martingale has trained mules and donkeys all over the world, and I use the same bit on every one of them. Okay. And it's inevitable. And I always tell everybody, call me when you got a question. Well, Steve, I can stick a finger between the bit on each side. Good. Mules and donkeys don't like their mouth anyway. And when you put a bit on that's too short and it's pushing against them, it's going to make them really uncomfortable. And they'll respond, but you have to really pull on them to make it work. Have the bit away from the corners of the mouth. It is not the lips that I want to communicate with my bit. Get that in your mouth. Think about that. It's not their lips, the corners of their mouth, that I want to communicate with. It is their tongue with the bit, double twist wire, full cheek. It is the tongue It is the bars of the mouth. Okay, the incisors are up here. The molars are back here, and there's a bar area where that bit goes back and forth across it. That's where I want my communication, not the corners of the mouth. Well, Steve, I pulled the bit through his mouth. Well, that's not the bit's fault. It's not the donkey's fault. Um, Whose fault is it? Oh, the person whose hands are on the reins who pulled too much rather than giving direction and impulsion. Okay, there again, everybody wants to make him do something. Well, I want him to turn. I want to pull him, make him. No, take your time. Ask, tell, demand. Okay. So yes, will it work? Absolutely. It's a wonderful tool. But remember me. I don't just sell you a bit or just sell you a tool. I have a video, and a lot of times a lot of videos that says do it like this. And that's what I do with that Mule Riders Martingale. It's such a fabulous tool. Put such a nice handle on them. Okay, awesome handle that in a short time you can get response and respect really nice. Okay, really awesome.
Next question. This one came in from Terry. She says, I have a 9-year-old Molly who is sweet but pushy. I started groundwork to back her off of me and yield her forehand and hindquarters. I asked for her to lunge circle trot, to which she bolted while kicking out. Now every time she's asked to move off, she chooses to kick out. I like your kit with the come along halter training, but how can I get her to stop kicking out? She doesn't offer to kick you less asked to move out of my space. This is Terry, Steve.
Okay, so Terry, the movie that we just saw of that animal was exactly what you're describing, wanting to get into your space. And eventually, see, that's how they get it. That's how they work. If they want you to go to the left, they step into your space, they push you around and make you go to the left. Now, eventually, folks, now get this in your mind, eventually old Fluffy's going to bite you. Or old Fluffy would even kick you to tell you to go over where you need to go. So now let's go back to the kicking. Since you're getting ready to lunge him, which, by the way, lunging is a horrible idea for a mule. Don't waste your time for it. Here you are. Here's the video. Here the mule comes. All of a sudden, I seen the mule started to step and go forward, pick up its pace. So you all don't see it. See it? Right there. The mule started to pick up his pace. Right there. You see that? The mule was coming at me. You see that? Watch this. See that mule all of a sudden was coming at me right there. My timing said to this mule, you come into my space, you push me around, I'm going to make you uncomfortable. That's what that is. That's what you're going to have to do with your mule. Now, why is he kicking out? He may be kicking out some, kicking at you to get you away from him. Okay? Don't lunge them. They don't need to. You don't need to lunge one. If you're going to lunge one, okay, then it needs to be because they don't want to be caught and you put them in a round pen. But otherwise, when it comes down to that come along rope and training on mules, I do not lunge them. Biggest reason why. You ready? Remember me, I always say a few things and I tell you why. Now here it comes. The mules and donkeys run through their shoulder. You don't disengage hindquarters on a mule. You disengage shoulders on a mule. You take it away from them. And here's the problem. The mule is going around counterclockwise. You have your lead rope in your hand. And you've got all that leverage, 6, 8, 10 feet or so, going on that mule as he's going around. Since mules and donkeys are very sensitive on their nose, and you train them from their nose, when you pick up on that lead rope, all that leverage that you have now pulls the nose towards you, makes them want to run through their shoulder. They already know how to run through their shoulder. Now they know how to do it to get away from you. So did you see, we talk about this a lot. You may have one thing that you're kind of doing right, but you're adding 15 more problems to it, 5 more problems to it, 3 more problems. You're adding to it. So now here we got the problem of the mule wanting to get your space, and then you find some way to bat them around to get them out of your space, and now they run from you. All right. So now what do? Take that mule rider's martingale. Take that ground communication kit and watch what I do with that mule. And also notice, you don't see me hardly go out of a 10-foot circle. Train within a 10-foot circle. Side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hind quarter, back up, everything, a 10-foot circle.
Let's hop back in and see who else is hanging out with us. Donald is watching from Warren, New Hampshire, where it's 46 and drizzling. Let's see here. Deborah says, I'm from Minnesota, but turned into a wimp now after decades in the Southwest. That's funny. Barbara says, I have a pushy mule. I will be using this method in his stall when he wants to push past me to get out. Donald says, just use the come along on a 5-year-old unhandled mule, and it worked great. Dave O'Brien says, I like your idea of a light kick to the shin to back up a mule getting into my space. Andrea is watching from Altoona, Florida. Sunny 80s. Wish we would stay on one time like y'all in Arizona. Yes, we are the Wild West, and it's better out here, but it's good elsewhere too. Let's see here. Deborah says Queen Bee. There we go. Yes, Queen Bee. Sherman Johnson says, Steve, when buying a new mule, are you looking for a mule that's got a little spirit or one that is calmer and just stands around?
I prefer to have one that with a little bit of spirit to him. One that's kind of offish, kind of, like, I don't really want to be around you, That kind of a mule, I can get something done. The other kind of mule is kind of lazy. And when I try to get after him with a cow, we'll get there someday. I prefer to have one that's a little bit on the grouchy side. Matter of fact, my little mule that we talked about last week, Rocky, he's now got it made. Oh, man, to tell you, he's fluffy with a purpose, though. I got to tell you, she's been using that come-along rope, and she's flat been working with Rocky, which is a good deal. But, yes, that it's really important that you use that come-along rope and be consistent and watch for number one. My number one thing is disposition. Even though he's a little grouchy and stuff, did he still, just like that one mule we were just training on, did he accept it right away and relax? Yeah. Okay. Would he eventually get his head all the way down? Yeah. Did he try to get away from me anymore? No. So he's got kind of a grouchy disposition, but he's got a disposition that's a workable one. Okay. Now, some people, they want to have old Fluffy just melt in their hands and this sort of thing. That's fine for them, okay? But just don't let Fluffy step on you and hurt you.
Fluffy with a purpose. I think that's a new shirt we need to make. That's awesome. John is watching from Springville, Utah, 46 and wet. Hey, Jim is watching from Western Maryland, where it's 58 degrees and clear. Merlin says, I would like to know where the vaccine was manufactured that your client has a problem with. I believe it was a contaminated batch of vaccine that caused the problem. Many companies are having their vaccines made overseas, and the quality is many times not there. I use the rabies vaccine because of the problems we have with it here. I have killed several rabid skunks and a couple of wild canines that tested positive over the years. Do you have any insight on where they were made, Steve?
I don't. And we were talking when they first started coming out with the vaccine. We're talking 25 years ago, Dave. So I have no idea. I know very few ranchers and working cowboy that uses that vaccine because they have, like me, run into some type of problems. But hey, thanks for the insight on that. We appreciate that note. It could have been a bad batch. Who knows?
Yeah, we love it when folks share, especially folks like you, Merlin, who have been watching for such a long time. They're such a constant here, so appreciate it. Peter's watching from North Carolina. Beautiful day, about 80. Dermot's watching, says, great stuff. Ireland hunting males love you. There we go. All right. Thank you very much, Dermot. Let's see. Kathy is watching from Houston, Texas, 83 degrees, sunny and breezy. David Pengelly is watching. Beautiful day here in Manchester, Georgia, 70 degrees. Folks, if you missed it, David Pengelly and Steve did a great program. I was a part of it, but Dave was the star. And it was a fantastic program. Go back to our YouTube channel, look in the archives. You'll find a great program there with David Pengelly when Steve was out to visit. Very, very cool. Myra says, still catching up with the time change, aren't we all? Greetings from windy Southern California, she says. Let's see here. Tamara says, hi, Steve. Any advice on how to handle a mule who rears when other horses are moving around them, trot or canter, or when I want to jog in hand next to them? It seems to be energy-based, but asking for the best way to work with them to stop the rear. I keep giving her opportunities to build confidence with a group, but wanting handling advice.
Well, it's really rare, really very rare, that a mule would rear in the air, okay? Now, usually what happens is they're overbidded. Mules don't usually, they don't usually rear up without being, but they're being hurt. So I'd like to know what type of bit you're using for one thing. And is he rearing to fight, or is he rearing because you're picking up on the bridle?
So good questions there. Tamara, go ahead and put that in there. Hannah is watching from, let's see here. I think it's Dunelin. I'm trying to remember. 82 and gorgeous. God bless America. Marcia is watching from Virginia. Let's see here. AZ Highland is watching from Prescott, Arizona. Robert Ireland, there we go. Hunting mules. Very good. Love the show. Thank you. Very good, Robert. 72 degrees in Prescott. Marcia says, I always vaccinate my mules against rabies. Get it from Big D's Tack and Vet Supply. So you got a recommendation there from Marcia in Virginia. Okay, next question from Christine. Says, hi, Steve. A lady colleague of yours taught Millie how to soft trot years ago. It was such an improvement over her everyday trot and a feature that I blessed that trainers every time I rode. As I've aged, Millie seems taller and taller and logically became my nephew's mule. The mule I ride now, Henry, is Mr. Wonderful, Steady Eddie, and man, I hope someone would talk about me like that. And more, just 14 hands, his hide is very workable. Is it feasible to teach Henry to soft trot? He's 30 years old, if that matters. I go ride him by myself, but trotting is an issue on my joints, so I don't want to go out with the group because occasionally having to trot to catch up is too painful. If he would soft trot, I would go out with the group. It would be best for the trainer to visit Woodsman Farm near Casa Grande for the training if possible. You can reach me. So Steve doesn't do any training anymore, but Steve, is it possible for Henry to learn how to soft trot, and maybe what are some things that Christine can consider?
Well, the trotting really kind of depends on a couple different things. One, how, most mules have a very single foot in their walk, and that will also go into the trot. So, and then it will be an extended trot is what it amounts to. So they would actually move their legs out farther as they're going into a softer trot or canter, which is almost a canter. So, yes, you can teach them to do that. Yes, you need to use the mule rider's martingale on them so that you can control them, because this is what you would do. You would say, okay, you're going around the arena area, and now you're getting ready to go on the long part. So you would, as you feel the shoulder go forward, you would kick her with your right leg, with your calf, and that would extend the leg. Then the left front leg is going forward. You would tap them with your calf, and that would extend the leg. So in other words, if you want a softer trot, it's going to be up to you and your timing. When that shoulder goes forward, you tap them on that side, they'll extend. When the shoulder's going forward, just before they get ready to put it down, you can timing on it. Again, it's your timing. It starts to go forward, you tap them, they'll extend it. So can you get that? Yes. Now, you're also going to have to use your hands. So that's why I tell you to use the Mule Riders Martingale, because here's what happens. These mules will elevate their head, gap their mouth, tighten all 5 major neck muscles to keep you from controlling them. And so, especially if you're using a smooth snaffle bit, which you never want to use on a mule, smooth snaffle bit just makes them run right through it. It's not a soft bit at all. Matter of fact, majority of mules that have been brought to me over the years, their tongues have been split from a smooth snaffle bit. So there's how you do it. And can it be done? Yes. Is it going to take some timing on your part? Yes. But you can do it.
So on the bit, we got a question from Kirsten. Says, can we ride a mule bitless?
Okay, it's bitless. You can simply use a mechanical Hackamore or a Bozal, all right, and ride them bitless. But number one, why would you want to ride them bitless? Okay, why? You're not hurting them. Matter of fact, here we go again, Dave. Remember this thing of, oh, you're hurting, Fluffy. You can put a Bozal or a Hackamore on that mule's nose and create more problems than you ever could with a bit. Why is that? They're very sensitive about their nose. They don't want their nose messed with. And when you go to pulling on their nose for a stop or a turn with that mechanical Hackamore, you're going to create far more pain, far more discomfort than you ever will with a bit. Okay, so that is something to consider. Don't use these bitless bridles, they call them. One veterinarian had done up one several years ago, thought it was something, and it was nothing. It was good for me because people brought me the mule because they couldn't stop them; they run off. But that's another story. Anyway, there it is. Build a foundation with the bit. Make sure you always get your teeth floated when you're riding.
So I wanted us to take a look at this right here, Steve. Why don't you tell us what we're looking at here?
All right, folks, we hear these people say all the time, you don't need to shoe a mule. Well, right here is end result. And that's kind of a little bit far-fetched, but it's actually end result of not trimming and shoeing a mule consistently. Notice how the black where the hair is at an angle. Notice that the hoof itself is straight up and down. You see that? So that the heel is too long. And when this person contacted me, see there how bad that is, how cracked it is, how it's too long in the heel. Plus that the back of the heel cannot support this animal's weight, and you can see from all the cracks and that real heavy crack up on the hairline itself. So he asked me what I should do, and I said trim down the heel a little at a time, get your farrier out, and start shoeing the mule so that you can get the toe to grow out. Now it's going to take a while because this is an older mule, and so be patient. But we've got some other pictures here of the mule actually got a shoe on him, and what you want to do is you want to move. There it is, beautiful. Look how nice that looks, really nice. Okay, now he couldn't. Normally, I always tell everybody no more than 4 nails in a shoe. He couldn't put these nails up forward because we want the shoe forward. You see this? You see how the shoe is sticking out beyond the hoof? We want that. So every time the foot goes down, it expands. And every time the foot goes up, it contracts. So what's happening is eventually that hoof is going to go out and is going to start getting a point to it and look better. Look how much nicer that foot is with a shoe on it and trimmed up nice. That's beautiful. Now we had some x-rays done, and everything seemed to be okay. Improving the outside wall of the hoof is really going to help, because what happens is you see that bone there, a very bottom bone where it comes to a point, That right there is the coffin bone. And once that gets damaged or gets to rotating, you no longer have a mule. Okay. So that outer hoof wall protects. So this guy has taken and done some corrective shoeing and is doing awesome. Now he's going to have a comfortable mule. Don't listen to these people who say you don't have to shoe a mule. I got news for you. If you don't shoe them and trim them, you end up with these kind of problems. Now I know there's a few of you that say, man, I've been doing it all my life. You are 1 in 1,000. Not many of you exist. Congratulations.
All right, here. So, question come in from, let's see, what is the name here? Canton, I think. There we go.
Oh, yeah, I can.
Yeah, someone's giving me a hard time. Hello, I had my mule do a blood test to make sure I was feeding her the right way. Hey, good for you. The results were all perfect apart from one result. My vet doesn't really know mules and told me to check with people who knew more. I'm from Quebec, and the mule are more than rare here. My mule showed low red blood cell levels, but everything else was normal. What should I do with that? Thank you.
Okay, so there is a product out, and I don't push this very often, but in this particular case, I will. It's called Red Cell. Red Cell, REDCELL. And you can buy it, and you can put it on grain, and they will eat it, and it will help with that problem right there. And it's rare, but it does that. They do get affected by it. But good for you. You were able to find out, where you were, low on selenium or vitamin B's or whatever, and then you found this problem, which is good. Now your mule's going to have some energy. Also, when you do this, make sure you feed whole oats, not crimped oats, whole oats. When you sprinkle that red cell on there, and your mule's going to do really well.
All right, moving right along here. Hey, Mark Williams is watching from Virginia where it's 65 and sunny. Is the rope halter the best thing for leading a pack animal?
Yes, when it's adjusted correctly, it's a wonderful thing. Now, I can tell you that my pack animals, when I'm leading them, the one with the most experience is my whip mule. That's number 5 back. Usually I like to pack with 5. So my 5th mule back is my whip mule. He's usually the best consistently on the halter with the most experience in this sort of thing. The least experience is my lead mule, which is my one here on the right, the front mule, and I put the come along rope on him so that I'm able to teach him his space, my space and his space, which is really important, especially when you have 4 more mules behind you pushing you. Yeah. So yes, it is with the other 4 mules, a good rope halter is important. But your lead mule, I like to use the come along rope.
Kim asks, what are the top 3 pieces of advice you would give to new mules person that is purchasing a mule for the first time? Should a new mule person ever purchase a mule sight unseen?
No. If you can't smell them, you can't touch them, you can't buy them. All right? You look for disposition. You cannot believe the amount of people who has contacted me that listen to somebody say, oh, this mule's been there, done that. And they see pictures of kids riding him, and they're crossing water, and they're going by traffic. And the worst one that I hate is when they're running and trotting on asphalt. Anyway, so, look for disposition first, okay? Confirmation second, training third.
Awesome. Steve, do you have any experience with an Indian hackamore? So, Steve, what is an Indian hackamore, and do you have any experience with one?
Well, an Indian hackamore usually is a rope around the lower jaw only. And they pull right and left, and it's if you had no other way to ride, like if you lost your bridle or something to get out, I would use it, but otherwise don't use that. It's not very consistent.
Steve, check this out. What do you say to this one right here?
Oh man. Hey, folks, you know, I've been telling you all, do it yourself. Do this yourself. And here's the prime example. Okay. This is AJ. I first met AJ when he was just starting to get into mules and donkeys. And he was looking for a nice donkey because he really didn't know much. And he thought maybe he'd start with donkeys. And guess what he was? He was a camp cook. He is a AJ is just a really fine artist when it comes down to making food, and he was a camp cook at this time. Now, in 2 years, folks. Now he bought this donkey from me down at the Andrada Ranch over 2.5 years ago. He has been watching my videos, using my tack, and him and his girlfriend, they do all kinds of stuff. They pack people back in the mountains now. They do weddings with packed mules with all kinds of flowers on them. And guess where he's at here right now? The Grand Canyon. Well, 2 years of putting forth effort. Now he's riding in the Grand Canyon. And he's got his own string of mules. Okay? Now, this ain't to pat me on the back, folks. Okay? I give you the instruction. It's there. I tell you to do it yourself. Don't trust these trainers and these other folks that are selling mules and stuff. You know, be your own trainer. Make decisions. And now, here, AJ now has gone all the way to the Grand Canyon, spent 2 days at the Phantom Ranch down the bottom, went down the Bright Angel Trail, came up the Kaibab, and let me tell you, good for him. That's, folks, listen, if AJ can do it, a cook, any of you all can do this. You know? Congratulations, AJ.
Let's see here. Gloria and Rex are watching from Ohio where it's 56 degrees. Hey, Yolanda is here, so we've gone international. Where in the world are you watching from right now, Yolanda? She says red cell literally helps their blood cells be back up again and only feed it as long as your mule accepts it. So some comments there from Yolanda. Judy is watching from Northern California. It's about 45 degrees. Guess I got on late. Yes, so our friends who are just hopping on right now, Arizona is the Wild West. And when the rest of the world was saying, you know what, let's do daylight savings time, Arizona said, not gonna do it. So it is 4 o'clock here Arizona time, which that's when we normally end. We start at 3 o'clock Arizona time. And that means that it's an hour earlier for everybody else. So this will be the time until daylight savings time kicks back in. It'll be Tuesday. It'll be Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. So apologize for that. You can blame the U.S. government for instituting daylight savings time, along with everything else you want to blame them for. Yolanda says, my mule was once poisoned, and she too got red cell for a couple of days. It helped her come back up, and she got well very fast. Red cell is a big blood red purple bottle with yellow horseshoe with red letters on it. Buy the small bottle, not the big one. Judy says, I see that you say to back your mules up with the come-along rope, you swing it side to side. I don't think my mule up cue is much different from the lead cue. Help. I pull back to back her up, but what if I am in front and she is coming onto me?
Okay, so when we're standing in front of the mule, I want to swing my rope. The only time I'm going to tell you to point your hand like this. Normally, I tell you, put the rope underneath your little finger and roll your wrist. But when you are teaching one to back up, you're going to go right, left, right, left. You hear that? Right, left, right, left. They don't do it. They don't back up the first time. Then you switch your hand on the rope and hold it like this. And now you bump it like you saw me do with that black mule. Bump down. Okay? So yes, you're going to go right, left, but then watch my hand with that black mule. You'll see me bumping. And then I bump, as hard as I need to get results with the feet. There you are. And if you watch my video there, the Problem Mule video, you'll see me doing it there.
Steve, that's all that we have for this week. Thanks so much for hanging out with us again. I know I speak for everyone else when I say that we really appreciate it, and it's been a lot of fun. The hour just flew by. Again, for all of our friends who are hopping on right now, and you're like, hey, I was on time. Yeah, you see, we go by Arizona time out here in Arizona, and so if you want to march to the beat of your own drum, come on out to Arizona. It's beautiful this time of year, and you'll never have to wind your clocks, and that's exactly why many of you are like, hey, it's the normal time. It kind of is. Arizona stays on Mountain Standard all year long, so while y'all were winding your clocks back, we were just rolling along like nothing ever happened. So the new time will be this way up until Daylight Savings Time kicks back in. It'll be Tuesdays. It'll be 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Mountain, 2 p.m. Pacific. So Arizona just kind of, we got a foot in each camp there, Pacific time and Mountain time. Thank you for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. Steve, anything you want to say before we're all done?
No, we've been training today. You see, I got my firefighter uniform on.
Hey.
Yeah, with AirVac. So we've been training with helicopters today. And so tomorrow we'll be doing the same thing. So that's why you don't see me with my cowboy outfit.
Steve's ready to give an account. He doesn't want people to think that he's turned in his cowboy outfit and he's a city slicker now.
Yeah, nope.
Thank you, everybody. God bless. Take care. And to all of our veterans, this Friday is Veterans Day. To all of those who have lost somebody in the service, Memorial Day is to honor those who have passed. Veterans Day is to honor those who have served. So to everyone who has served and to our families, to those who have lost someone in the service or they're no longer with us, just thank you for your service. We are so grateful for you. You stand for so many things that are the best of us. And so we appreciate it, and we hope that you get to enjoy Veterans Day together with those you love, doing the things that you enjoy the most doing. And God bless, take care, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye, everyone.